Welcome to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast, the show for women who are seeking more fulfillment in life and simply not getting it from their current situation. We focus specifically on careers, but hey, we spend a lot of time in our careers, so making changes here will definitely create an impact in your overall happiness. I'm your host, Simone Morris, and my mission is to empower women to succeed. I believe that in order to powerfully own your career, you must decide and claim that you want to sit in the driver's seat. You must know that you deserve better and be willing to not only do the requisite work, but be willing to go out on a limb to ensure your success. Each episode focuses on profiling a leader who is clearly demonstrating ownership of their career. Join me and my guests as we explore career journeys and bring you actionable strategies to use to get into the driver's seat for your career. Because ultimately, your career is your responsibility. Let's get into the show. So wonderful today to have with us on the podcast, Patrina Dixon. Patrina, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Simone. I'm so happy to be here.
Absolutely. And you look fabulous. So we are releasing the video footage. Sometimes it's just audio, but Patrina looks so wonderful. And I had some makeup on from a previous call. I said, let's go with the video. So Patrina, welcome to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast.
Yes, I am so happy to finally be here. Oh, Simone, I can't wait for this discussion.
Oh, awesome. So you are a speaker, a financial expert, an author, and doing just so much, and international as it is. I have been following you. I am a fan, so I know about your work. Was it Trinidad?
It was.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
See, I'm paying attention to what you're doing. So excited. Tell our listeners, when did you know that you were in the driver's seat? And that means taking responsibility and that you were calling the shots, driving where you needed to go in your career. When did you know you were in the driver's seat for your career?
Yes. So, you know what? I feel like so a little bit of my story is I was a single mom. And so I feel like I've always been in the driver's seat, right? I had to make decisions, do things, make sure our money was in order to take care of everything. But from a business perspective, it was when I started to get my finances in order and realized that there needed to be other streams of income. And I'm like, I have to create that one. And then I figured out what that was going to be. And in order for me to deliver what I do to who I wanted to deliver it to, I needed to be in the driver's seat to make those decisions. So for me, it was almost 5 years ago where I found myself in the driver's seat.
Awesome. So how do you build yourself up to be in the driver's seat? How did you learn these financial expertise skills and hone in on that is your sweet spot or your passion?
Sure. So the how was when I learned how to, because like I said, a long time ago, I felt like I was the driver because I was the head of my household, but I was not doing it right from a financial perspective. And I thought because I was able to acquire things, that I had my money right, but that was not the case because I didn't have any saved, any invested or anything like that. So once I learned how to do it, and I learned that it really wasn't hard, the tactics were not hard, it was the mindset to get there. I wanted to go out and teach everybody how to do it because oftentimes people think you need a lot of money in order to do things different with your money. So once I learned those things, it was my mission to go out to teach more people how to do that.
Wonderful. And I know you're making tremendous progress and around the country and out of the country with sharing that message with your wonderful worksheets and books, etc. So what is your formula? Because right now you are inside corporate and you're outside corporate and you're shining in both spaces. What would you say, Patrina, is your formula for successfully owning your career? What does it take?
Coffee.
Coffee.
No, really. So I'll start with the business first. So as you mentioned, I have a 9-to-5, and in order for my business to run, it also has to run 9 to 5. So I have a team that I couldn't do what I do without the team. I tried that in my first year of business, and that was not a great thing. I think I was I don't know how much I slept during that first year. So then I quickly, or within that year, realized I need more people around me to make this happen. So the team works in the business, if you will, from 9 to 5. And then while I am doing what I do for my 9 to 5, and then I take over, if you will. So a lot of the workshops and the various things that I do are after that time frame. So, and I've been at my 9 to 5 now almost 27 years. So I've been doing it a long time. I enjoy the company that I work for and the things that are offered. But as I said at the beginning, I knew that there needed to be other streams. And if this year didn't teach us anything, it's like you never know what may happen. So you want to ensure that you are doing things that you are setting yourself and your family up for whatever may come your way. So that's another reason why I needed to be in this driver's seat for the business and for the topic that I'm in, so I can teach others how to do it. So, to get back to the actual question, it is executing really well from 9 to 5. And then having a team around my business from 9 to 5. So then when I take over, I'm actually doing the business, like doing the revenue generating items while they're doing all the administrative and things of that nature.
Right. So you recommend that our listeners learn how to be really good at planning and executing?
Absolutely. So you want to plan out, you absolutely plan. You want to plan out, not try to do everything by yourself. If you don't have a 9 to 5 and you're just doing it on your own, you want to, what is it? The teamwork makes the dream work. So you want to ensure that, I recognize the things that I didn't do well, and I needed my team to have those traits so that together it made a cohesive team. So that's kind of what worked out for me. So I couldn't do 9 to 5. They had to be available those hours. I am not great on organization. They had to be great with that. I'm not great on Google Drive. They had to be great with that. So it was those things that came together to ensure what we needed to deliver to my clients and customers made sense. And that's kind of how it worked.
Yeah, I feel like what you're saying is find your gaps and then supplement those gaps with the right talent.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And so even if listeners, even if you are dealing in the corporate space, understand your strengths. There's a book, Find Your Strengths and Weaknesses, and optimize accordingly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, that applies in everything. You know what I mean? Like even from a relationship standpoint. So, together, different people have different strengths and weaknesses. And one is you have to identify what your weaknesses are. Right. So, I would encourage people to spend some time trying to figure that out. And then once you determine what those are, that's where you can supplement, a contract worker, somebody working for you, even if in your 9 to 5, where you would need assistance with things when you don't know how to do certain things. So don't be afraid to ask for help.
I love that. That might be the name of the interview. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Now, Patrina, I've heard you say twice, multiple streams of income. Tell us, because this is your lane, how many streams? I've heard 9, 7. How many streams of income should we have?
Yeah, so I think, and I actually have a blog on this. I'll drop that. That was actually a guest feature blog. It's 7 streams of income is what you will hear more than not. So there's various different ways, right? So let's say a person like me, so 9 to 5, so that's income that you earn. And then I also have a business, so that's, through a business venture. There's also like, I guess if you had capital gains, if you were investing, if you have real estate property. So those are the very, a few types. And then again, you can check the blog on itsmymoneyjournal.info and check out the blog. But those are examples of. So again, what I do in my business could be defined for some as a side hustle. So you can have a side hustle. It may not be the type of business I have with a team. Maybe it's, if you enjoy baking, you sell cupcakes. So you can still do that while having a 9 to 5. Maybe your busiest season is during fourth quarter with the holidays. Maybe it's during the wedding season. So various different things like that. So when you have something on the side, I encourage you to look at one of two things: something that you have a skill set in already, or you have a passion in doing, or maybe it's both, right? Maybe that one thing is a combination of both, because you don't want to create a lane where you're like, oh, I got to do this again. Like I can talk about what we're talking about right now every day, all day, because I love what I do. And you want to be at that place. Not that you don't have frustrating days, but you don't want it to be like, oh, I got to do this extra thing. You want this thing is, I am doing what I love doing, and I have learned to monetize it or get paid for it. And that's what you want to consider.
Wonderful. So we'll be sure to, in the show notes, drop that link to the featured blog article. So was there ever a time that you weren't in the driver's seat? And then how did you find your way back to the driver's seat?
Do you mean, well, let me just clarify. Do you mean once I got started, or you mean before I got started in my business?
Before you got started on your journey in general.
Yeah. So I think, let's see what I would say. I would say that there's always been like a bug or urge to want to be an entrepreneur or want to have my own business. And it was, right now, I guess they would define me as a dualpreneur because I have a 9-to-5 and I'm an entrepreneur. But it was always a drive. Like I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to, call the shots and things of that nature. But it was like, okay, am I ready? It was like, okay, what's the thing? Like, what am I going to do? What do I enjoy doing that somebody may pay me to do? And then it was, okay, do I have money to make this happen? Because I didn't get paid a lot during the first year. So I had to develop, I had to refine skills, I should say. I had to refine skills and certifications and things of that nature. So that took some capital to make happen. And then it was get the team. So so I think COVID was probably one of the times where I'm like, oh boy, what am I going to do now? And because my business, the core revenue generator for my business was going out to do workshops, physically in person doing workshops. And it was like, okay, what do I do now? Although Zoom definitely saved me, but being in the room is just a totally different thing. It's very different. The energy of the people in the room sort of drives what I do, how I go, how I engage them. So I think that was probably the most interesting time at the start of it all, trying to figure it out, trying to see if clients would continue wanting what they had previously hired me for, from a virtual standpoint. So, and it worked out where that was the case, because and I don't know if it was client by client or just the fact that this is now the new norm, that it worked out. But nevertheless, I was able to retain my team and continue to deliver what I was doing, just a different way, which was virtual.
Right. So you were able to pivot. You felt like
I was able to pivot. Yes, I was able to pivot. But when it first happened, I wasn't sure, because virtual was an option before COVID, right? It wasn't the preferred option for me. I'm like, that's just not my thing. Like sitting in front of a computer and, talking. It was, I need to be in the room. I need to engage and walk around and do various different things. So I'm like, how is this going to work? Because one of the reasons why people would refer me to other clients was because of what they saw me do in the room, right? So, give me the mic or podium and I'm out there doing my thing. So if that wasn't seen, I was unsure who would refer the next. If I get on the screen and, people aren't engaged, you just see the black box and not them saying yes or commenting, what was going to change. So I had to then change my style, not change my style, but I had to then say, okay, this will be it. So now I had to figure out and get more comfortable with being in front of the screen, knowing that I could just have black boxes. Nobody is actually listening. They're tuning out, they're on their phone or doing whatever. So once I got to the place where I was comfortable, regardless if they're behind the square or not, I had to do me like I would do in the room. And then it became, where I was comfortable with that. And then more folks started to hire me to do more of that. So it worked out in that way.
Awesome. Well, talk to us about risk in your career and how you've been able to embrace that as a lever for career success.
And again, are you referring in either way? So I think the risk would be, if I were to think about my day job, I would say the risk is the unknown, right? So things continue to change. You work hard and you hope that you are seen as an asset. You know what you deliver, and hopefully that's received in that way. But as we talked about the driver's seat, you're not in the driver's seat, right? You're susceptible to whatever transpires. And I think what I try to do, knowing that I'm not in the driver's seat in that situation, is to adapt with change, to make sure that I understand what's going on, make sure that I know what's needed, make sure that I'm executing on deliverables. So that's how I, to the best of my ability, try to avoid risk in that situation. From a business perspective, it is, I mentioned staff. Staff is very important. They could be offered different, a different position. They could be offered more money somewhere else or something like that. So what I try to do, because I can't compete with somebody that may be able to do different things than I can, so I ensure that it's a welcoming place that they work, that, they can ask whatever they need to ask, that we stay engaged. We meet, we're all now virtual. We used to be in an office space. So it's like we're meeting regularly like this so that we can see each other and feel like we're with each other. So the risk is, I have a staff, they're great. How long will I have that staff? The other risk is, in my specific business, the clients that hire me, how is their budget going to be for the upcoming year? Because budgets changed every year. So will I have the same opportunities next year as I do this year? So it's trying to plan ahead to ensure that, if a client that had me February of last year if they don't, will I have another client in that month? So that's the risk, just not knowing and relying on clients' budgets to be able to pay for the workshops that I come and do, and not knowing if that'll happen from one year to the next.
Mm-hmm. So what advice would you give to our listeners on taking ownership of their careers?
Do it. Just do it. Tomorrow is not promised. If you have that, whatever it is in you, if it's working for a 9 to 5, working for yourself, working with somebody else, collaborating, do it. And you may hear more no's than yes, but it takes one great yes to make the difference. So just do it. Just do it. Do not be sitting in your chair tomorrow regretting what you could have done today. Just do it. I know that's a Nike term, but it works. It works for what you asked. Just do it.
It does. Yeah. Yeah. Nike, definitely. I love that. I have a couple of t-shirts that say, just do it. And I know you've got a couple of t-shirts that say, it's my money as well.
Yes.
Can you tell us about any resources that you have found, helpful in taking ownership of your career?
Oh man. So one, I'm a big listener to podcasts. And as opposed to reading books, I have read several books. I go to conferences. I in various different trainings. I pay for coaching. So there's so many different ways. It depends on what you like. This is what I will say. If you are a reader, read the books that align to what you want to do. If you like to listen while you're working, while you're doing dishes, while you're driving, listen to podcasts. If you are somebody that needs like literally hands-on sheets or something like that to fill out, maybe go to a conference that's going to provide those sort of resources for you to write in or do action steps after you're done. So I'll tell you a couple for me. So let's see, from a podcast perspective, I love the podcast. So again, I'm a money person. So I like Journey to Launch is a great podcast. Side Hustle Pro is another. From a book perspective, there's so many, but they're all going to be financial. Let me see. I'm looking at my books over there. Which one would I say that's great? Let's see. Life Scripts is a great one. Let's see. How to Say It is another, because, it's one thing to get in business, but you have to know how to have the conversations that you need to have in the space that you're in. Let's see, another one. Let's see. Learn to Earn is another good one. So that's, I have a bunch. I'm literally looking at my book. Oh, and then let's think about becoming, right? So I think that's also fitting because I love the title. And I think about myself, when I think about myself and think about that title in that book, it's about where you started and where you end up, like the in-between or the bookends. Like, it's amazing when you look back at your journey and think, well, I want to do this and I want to do this and I want to do that. and you have to be grateful for where you have come from in order to appreciate where you are today. And then you need to have a vision about where you want to go. So you can't just say, okay, I'm going to write a book, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You have to okay, why? Have a why you're doing what you're doing, and then set the path out to do that.
Yeah, so it seems to me that it requires you to be thoughtful about what it is you want to do. But I love the idea of experimenting with what lights you up, because that's
Yes.
going to keep you going. And it's clear that the finances lights you up.
That and my daughter is definitely my why. Like, she is absolutely my why. She is why I do everything that I do. From the day she was born, I needed to get on what I knew of to be the straight and narrow, and then continue to refine as I moved forward. So she continues to be the why. Why, as a strong Black woman, she can do whatever she wants to do. If she put the work in and put her mind to it, she can make it happen. And I think it was Taraji P. Henson that said, the sky is no longer the limit, it's only the view. So she can look up and dream and have aspirations and actually accomplish it if she executes on the things that's needed.
Well, what a wonderful role model you are. How do you make it all work? Because you have got so many things going on, Patrina. What's some tips for our mompreneurs that are listening, and how to make it all work together?
Yeah. So one, don't try to do everything. I said that earlier. You even if you can, like, you have the ability to, you shouldn't, because if you're like me, like, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I have a day job and I own a business. If I did, from the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep, I did all of those, I couldn't do all of those things and actually be present in those moments. So make sure that you have a team around you. And that team may not be people working for you. Maybe it's teams of supporters. Maybe it's, you just need to know what it is that you need, that it needs to work for you. So for me, I needed people during the day to work in my business because I can't do it during the day. Also, you have to learn to delegate. You have to learn to, which things that you'll be comfortable with that will not cause you anxiety for somebody else to do, because you don't want to delegate and then freak out about it getting done. And don't micromanage. Like, think about things that you don't like happening to you. Don't do that to others when you release tasks to them. The other thing is you have to have self-care. And, I call it me time. Have your me time. If it's that drinking coffee, like, first thing before you get started, you need to do whatever it is, and don't make excuses of why you can't do that. Know that when you're better yourself, you are better for your company, you're better for your business and your family and everybody else. So I encourage that, and whatever that is. So that's different for everybody. For me, if I don't have coffee before I start, just forget it. They're going to get the cranky Patrina. But if I get my coffee, I'm all good. So you have to make sure. So I again, I would say, get a team around you, supporters in whatever way that you need. Have some me time, delegate where necessary. And then again, I to just reiterate what I said, know what your weaknesses are. We all have them. And once you identify those, you have to fill the gap with something. So maybe it's a person, maybe it's a tool, whatever that is, but you have to close that up. But you can't do that until you identify it.
Wonderful, wonderful. It's so good to have you on the podcast. So tell me, if you were to think about a title, I know you've got books, if you were to think of a title for the body of your career expertise, career work, what would the title be?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. You did that, girl. Now I know that's the first thing that came to my mind. Like, you. Yes, it's true, because I quickly tell you this. So my first book, volume 1 of my first book was is for teenagers, and it came out a year later, because when I put the idea in the universe, folks said to me, "You're too old. Like, the kids are not going to relate to you." Like, and I internalized that, and I'm like, well, maybe they're right. I am about to hit that big number. Maybe they won't. And I paused for a year and said, and the reason why I wanted to start with young people, because once I learned everything, right? I said, had I known this about money that I knew back then, Lord have mercy is what I would say. And I wanted to start with young people, and people are like, they're not going to relate. They're not going to relate. I'm like, oh my goodness. So then I'm like, I'm just doing it because I know it's needed. Like I made that observation, and it was my obligation to do something about that in the field that I knew best. And when I would go out there with those young people, Simone, oh my goodness, I had to, for my daughter, learn some of the songs, some of the moves, but I just acclimated to the situations that I was in, and it took off. So I'm regretting, no, I shouldn't say I regret that I didn't start a year earlier. What I learned from that experience is if it's in you, you make it happen. You don't let anybody crush your dreams. And instead of saying I regretted it, I learned in that year, how can I ensure that I don't make what they said would be true? And that's how I use that to motivate what I did once it did launch.
Oh, well, congratulations. Because I know you're on, is it volume 2 now?
Yes, that's volume 2. That's dropping soon. Okay. Now, I'm not even going to say a date because I there's a lot of things going on in the world, and I want to make sure that some of that air clears before it drops. So it's coming soon. It's coming soon.
Wonderful, yes. Wonderful. Well, so good to have you on the podcast. Can you tell our listeners how to stay connected with you?
Sure. So first I want to say thank you. Thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed this conversation, and hopefully I've been able to, inspire folks to do what's in them, what that thing that's in you, just make it happen. They can find me at itsmymoneyjournal.info. So the website is itsmymoneyjournal.info. Once you go there, you can find the blog, you can find the podcast, and then my social handles you can connect to me from the social handles as well. But I will tell you my Instagram one. It's my money _, because I need to get those numbers up. So it's my money _ is my Instagram, but everything else you can find on the website. Again, it's mymoneyjournal.info.
Thank you so much, Patrina. This has been wonderful. I'm glad we got it on the books, and I knew it would be a great interview and continue to be an inspiration to the teens and to us all. So appreciate you.
And I appreciate you. I follow you too. You're doing your thing. So thank you for what you're doing as well. And for even bringing forth, women and different people on the platform. And I really appreciate what you're doing as well.
Thank you so much, Patrina. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. It is my hope that you enjoyed today's episode. You can check out the show notes for this episode on the SimoneMorrisEnterprises.org website by clicking the podcast menu. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and tell a friend or two about it.